Hello and welcome to another episode of Diminishing Returns. This week, Sol and I are joined once again by Disney fanboy Howard Jenkins to discuss Aladdin and its straight-to-video sequels. Expect lots of praise for Robin Williams, an inevitable discussion about race, and an interesting peek into how the animation industry works. Enjoy!
Yeah, Aladdin, 1992 Disney film. I think generally regarded as one of Disney's best.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you not say?
I'm not.
Is that just a generational thing? Is that because people my age think it's one of the best, but it's someone your age who go, oh well, I like ones from my childhood.
This is from my childhood.
My music. Three Caballeros. Oh yes. Victory through air power. I remember the way we cheered as we watched those animated bombs take out Hitler's bad boys.
Well, I mean, not to give too much away straight up front, but I was a little bit underwhelmed by this. I haven't seen it for a long time. It felt like it had aged quite badly.
Oh, I must say, I think politically speaking, this film has aged significantly over the last few years.
Ding dong.
Most definitely.
Ding dong. So,
yeah, is it going to be the doorbell?
There's a new comedy character at the door. Can you open the door for me, please? I'll just.
All right, I'll just get the door. I wonder who it's going to be.
No,
should we have a guess? Howard?
You'll not guess it.
I think it might be something to do with Robin Williams, but I'm not entirely sure. All right, let's open the door. Who is it? Hello?
Hello, lads. It's me. It's definitely not racist Liam Neeson here. I'm going to start dropping in on the show whenever things might be getting a little bit racist, just to make sure nothing's going on.
Liam Neeson! out of every... I thought, it could be Gilbert Gottfried.
It's so unconnected. I love it.
See,
it's definitely not racist, Liam Neeson. What's your shtick going to be?
I'm atoning for my past. Because I know I've said some things in the past that I shouldn't have. So I'm going around now just checking off the old racism there. Making sure everybody knows what's racist and what's not.
So, Liam, can we throw back to you periodically throughout
this
episode
I'll just
to
be
check if something is or isn't racist?
I'll just be sitting and listening in there and you can tell me, you can ask me, is that a racist accent? And I'll say yes or no. All
right, excellent. I love our new direction of sort of having characters who come in and actually have a purpose on the show instead of just saying hello, my name is, and then leaving, which is what we used to do. Right, Aladdin.
Yeah,
there's a street rat. He gets a lamp. It's got a genie in it.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it, isn't it? It's
a
musical. It's got music by the wonderful Alan Menken and Tim Rice.
So
is that right? Oh no, hang on.
So it's half and half. So Howard Ashman did 3 songs, and then he passed away before he could finish it. So Tim Rice came in and did the rest. So
that was it. We touched on this in our Little Shop of Horrors episode fairly recently, and how Howard Ashman and Tim Rice, have I got the right combination there? Pretty much, well, they're a huge part of the Disney Renaissance and the turning Disney around. And
Yeah, definitely. It was Howard Ashman, definitely, that kind of, came in and kind of said, you need to make them like Broadway musicals, and you need the songs to kind of service the story, and really changed the face of Disney and saved it, really, from where it was.
And they did an excellent job on Aladdin. I think it's some of the... Well, personally, I think they're some of the best musical numbers just ever of all time, but I think they're generally regarded as some of the best Disney songs. They won the film an Oscar for the song A Whole New World. I believe Friend Like Me was also nominated.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Because, A Whole New World won the Oscar, and they also won an Oscar. Alan Menken won an Oscar for the score of this film as well.
Oh, right.
And rightly so, because the music in this film is just phenomenal, I think, from start to finish. It's not just the musical numbers, it's everything. So, Aladdin, again, I think often quite overlooked just in terms of the influence it had on the industry of Hollywood.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is from a time when animated films were a thing, but it wasn't like nowadays where there were 20 different studios pumping out multiple animated films a year because they just churn in money, which they do. You make a family-friendly animated film, it's probably the safest thing you can invest your money in, frankly. Parents take their kids to see any old shit. But back then, it was much more of a risky endeavour. It wasn't quite the thing where you just pump these things out. And celebrity, big name actors was not the done thing.
No, not at all.
Putting in stuff to keep mum and dad entertained wasn't really a concern. Not to the point that nowadays these films are made for adults primarily, I would argue, and just make sure that kids can sit through them. But and I think this is very much the start of that. Shrek is the film that cemented it. Yeah, I do think this was the beginning of that, and obviously that is pretty much down to Robin Williams, who I don't think anyone could argue isn't the man who makes this film what definitely. It is.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, absolutely. My note at 34 minutes was, oh, this film suddenly came to life. Because it was quite.
I think I made the exact same note.
Yeah. And then I
think I made a note along the lines of I was beginning to switch off.
Yeah.
And then Robin Williams turned up, and it's like just a breath of energy. It's like, oh, this is wonderful now.
10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck. Hang on a second. Wow! Wow! Does it feel good to be out of there? I'm telling you, nice to be back, ladies and gentlemen. Hi, where are you from? What's your name?
Aladdin.
Aladdin! Hello, Aladdin. Nice to have you on the show. Can we call you Al, or maybe just Din? Or how about Laddie? Sounds like, here, boy. Come on, Laddie.
I must have hit my head harder than I thought.
I think it's a real example, because I feel like nowadays they just put celebrities in for the sake of it, and they will just put, they'll just put Kit Harington in How to Train Your Dragon 2, and they'll just put whoever in whatever.
Yeah,
whereas I feel like
there's often no concern given to how the voice works with that character design as well. It often looks really jarring and horrible, whereas Genie's obviously been designed with Robin Williams in mind and around him, and
and had it been a different person doing the voice, it would have been a very different performance, and it would have been a very different film. Well, it really would have.
We'll get to this later, but we have a very good example of what it would be if you put someone else in that character in the sequel when they put a very talented voice actor in that role.
And he just
it's just not the same. It's a good performance, but it's just not the same. And it's the difference.
It's a good performance from a man bringing his A game, trying his hardest to fill those shoes, and like you say, a very talented voice actor doing that.
Absolutely,
just not being able to do it.
Well, let's come back to that. Let's not get into that yet.
Yeah. Have we done we haven't done a Robin Williams film yet, have we?
We've done Jumanji.
Oh, we have done Jumanji. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Just an incredibly inherently likable presence, Robin Williams. I think he famously did this film for scale. I don't really know why, but he did.
I think I think it's because I think he'd said that he wanted to just do something for his kids, because I think he'd just recently had kids, and he kind of said he wanted to be part of the Disney thing. He wanted to do something that his kids could watch and enjoy, and he just really wanted to be a part of that. But he didn't want it to be overly commercialized, and he didn't want them to. I mean, they didn't want them to use him to sell the film. Yeah,
we'll get into this more, I think, with the second and third one. But yeah, he made a lot of stipulations in his contract, which Disney proceeded to just like shit all over and wipe their ass with and ignore, like bizarrely so. I don't know why. Why would you?
Yeah,
I know they're like a huge evil corporation and everything, but like, but surely you want the option to bring him back for the sequel. Why would you do that? It's such a... Surely the fact that he's agreed to do it for scale is such a big thing anyway, that you just think, yeah, fuck it. But yeah, he stipulated that, for example, the voice couldn't be used in merchandising, the genie couldn't be used I think he couldn't take up more than 75% of the poster, or was it 25%?
I think it was 25. I think it was, yeah.
Oh yeah, because he was saying, look, it's a supporting character, isn't it? Like he didn't want to...
Yeah. And just stuff like that. And Disney were like, nope, the poster's the genie and nothing else.
Robin Williams
as
as the genie.
Yeah. And he was understandably, I think, furious with them and fell out with them over this, but more on that later. I'm sure we'll talk about the genie some more, but who else is in this film? We've got Scott Weinger, I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, as Aladdin. He's been dining out on this role for his entire life.
So he's quite a young man, wasn't he, at the time?
He was 17, I believe.
I was going to ask this, is Aladdin supposed to be like 15, something like that? Is that kind of the idea?
I think he's meant to be a lot younger than he comes across,
he's 18, I think. I think that's his exact age.
But I think, are they basically going, oh yeah, he's 18 because we have to take seriously that they're going to get married? All that comes with that, whereas they want him to be 15.
Well, in the original kind of concept, he was going to be a lot younger and a lot smaller and scrawnier, but they kind of discovered that when they paired him up with Jasmine, he seemed too much of a little boy next to her. So they made him a kind of taller and a bit more muscular and masculine, so that they would look like a better fit together.
They made him more of a Tom Cruise figure. I believe they literally used Tom Cruise as a basis, though I can't remember if I just imagined that or not.
Jeffrey Katzenberg kind of said to the directors, he kind of said, at the minute you've got Michael J. Fox and Julia Roberts, and it doesn't work. You need Tom Cruise and Julia Roberts, and then it will work. So. Yeah, so
we got Tom Cruise and Jennifer Connelly. So Linda Larkin is Princess Jasmine, who was partly based on Jennifer Connelly by the animator, just in terms of her movements and stuff. He also based it partly on his sister, but mixture of the two. We got Jonathan Freeman, who plays Jafar, who I have never really appreciated until rewatching this film the other night. Apparently they wanted Patrick Stewart in this role, and he couldn't do it because he was busy filming Star Trek The Next Generation, and at some point he called it the biggest regret of his career.
Yeah, I heard
that would have been wonderful to have him in the role. But like I say, rewatching this, I think Jonathan Freeman brings a lot to it. He's doing a kind of Boris Karloff thing, which I never picked up on when I was younger.
A beautiful desert bloom such as yourself should be on the arm of the most powerful man in the world.
What do you say, my dear?
Why, with you as my queen.
Never! I'll teach you some respect!
I looked up Jonathan Freeman. I thought, he's going to have like 400 voice acting credits. And he hasn't. He hasn't got a lot at all. There's some voice stuff, some acting stuff, but...
I believe he played Jafar on in the Disney stage version of Aladdin.
He did, in the Broadway version.
But for someone who's had a career for 30-odd years, it's not... He's got... Well, it says here he's got 44 credits, so there you go. It's not a lot, is it?
Yeah. What I really like about that is that Jonathan Freeman looks nothing like Jafar in real life. He's he's actually this really big guy, and whereas Jafar is this really kind of skinny thing, and I just love that they've managed to find a character that fits that voice so well, but looks nothing like the voice actor. I think it's just brilliant.
I've got a little quiz that ties into this. Is it a little PC quiz?
Is it how many non-white people are in Aladdin?
It is, including uncredited cast members. There are 26 voice actors in this film.
Okay.
How many of them are of Middle Eastern heritage?
0.
You're going for 0, Howard?
I'm going to go for 1 because I think it's going to be 0, but I want to give a different answer.
Alan is correct. The answer is 0. Okay, question number 2. Question number 2. How many of them are not white?
2.
0.
It is a tie. The answer is 1. There is one non-white cast member in the film. It is the uncredited Lea Salonga who provides the singing voice for Princess Jasmine.
Yes,
she is Filipino.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is the PC quiz. What percentage of GOP voters, that is Republican primary voters in America, in 2015 supported the bombing of Agrabah?
I don't feel like it can be too high because I just think that's ridiculous. But I think, I'm going to say 15%.
I'm going to say 87%.
Well, Howard is closest,
okay,
but it is twice what you said. It was 30%.
That is still ridiculous.
It's shockingly. Final question. Let's see if one of you can pull this away from the other one. Robin Williams not only plays the genie, who there's an argument to be made is supposed to be Jewish, but he also plays the Arabian merchant at the start of the film.
Welcome to Agrabah, city of mystery, of enchantment. The finest merchandise this side of the River Jordan, on sale today. Come on down.
Yep.
I will give you a point for every instance you can name where Robin Williams has played someone other than a white guy in a film.
Okay, so am I to tell you the characters, or do you want me to guess a number?
Tell me as many of them as you can. So yeah,
okay.
Character or film, if you can name any of them. There's surprisingly not many. I thought I was going to dig into his CV and it was just going to be overflowing with the time Robin Williams did some ill-advised blackface and the time he dressed up as a Chinese man. Didn't happen. He was.
Well, can I put forward his characters from Happy Feet?
Guys, let me tell something to you. Come close. Don't be afraid. You want answers.
Yeah.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
Nothing else?
No.
Then this is very easy. You go see Lovelace.
You bring this stranger before me. He doubts my powers. He compares me to a slut. The voices are shrieking in my head. They say, Lovelace, who is this fool?
Yeah, I will accept that. They are, of course, both penguins, but he is doing a Mexican voice and a black guy voice. Yeah, I'll give you a point for Happy Feet. And Happy Feet
okay.
Too.
I mean, I was going to guess the robot in Robots because he's a robot, but I don't think that's what the quiz is.
I could only find one clear-cut, obvious example of this that isn't getting clever like Alan just did.
Oh, he was what about that character in Friends when he had that random cameo in Friends?
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
And he was there with Billy Crystal, and it was really odd.
I have a feeling my wife is sleeping with her gynecologist.
How do you know?
Well, he's got access, it's a feeling you get,
Like when you go bowling and you know you're in somebody else's shoes?
That's the one.
I'll give you a point for that. That's definitely meant to be some sort of minority, whatever it was. The only one I could find was he played multiple characters called Hector in the film Being Human, which were versions of a guy throughout time. The fourth version of which is a Portuguese man. So he's meant to be kind of, some would say Hispanic, some would say that's offensive in Portuguese, are there anything?
You can do Portuguese, that's fine. You can do European. Yeah, that's fine.
And I would have accepted he played Jacob in Jacob the Liar, who was a Polish Jew in 1944. I'm sure he's probably played Jewish characters in quite a few films. So, but that's the only one where it's particularly overt. He I think was often assumed to be Jewish. Robin Williams. I've seen him referred to as an adopted Jew by the Jewish community. But he was not. He was from Scottish and English heritage. So yeah, that's a draw then between you guys. 2 points each.
What about Mork from Ork? Is that
what about what? Mork?
Mork from Ork.
He's an alien, so yeah.
I'm an alien.
Okay. Back to the cast. Who else have we got in this? we have got Frank Welker giving perhaps the finest performance of his career.
As soon as I heard the monkey goes, and it's like, oh, that's Frank Welker. It's like, I don't know why I can identify Frank Welker's squeak now.
I think Frank Welker is phenomenally talented, and I think he brings so much life and personality to Abu the monkey.
Abu?
What?
Abu says, that's not fair.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, of course.
And does Abu have anything else to say?
Well, he wishes there was something he could do to help.
He shouldn't have that much life and personality about him in a way that sounds very authentic. It's not. If that had been to pick a voice actor at random, if that had been John DiMaggio, it would sound like a guy doing a monkey noise. But this sounds like a monkey in a cartoon with personality and stuff. He's great.
He's one of the best out there, I think. And I think isn't he also the voice of Raja the tiger and then the Tiger Head Cave?
I imagine so. Yeah. I mean, I imagine he's every animal in the film, if any of them make any noise.
He's every animal in anything. As well he should be.
Who else have we? Oh, apart from, of course, Iago, who is played by Gilbert Gottfried. Again, brilliant casting, brings so much to that role.
We gotta get out of here. We gotta get out. I gotta start packing, Your Highness. Only essential. We gotta travel light. Bring the guns, the weapons, the knife. And how about this picture? I don't know. I think I'm making a weird face in it.
Well, I really think Iago as a character is wasted in this first film.
I agree.
And he does become much more of a significant part in the sequels, which I like.
Well, I remember, because I mean, when Aladdin first came out on DVD back in 2004 or something, I was obsessed with it, and I listened to all the audio commentaries and everything. And I remember them saying that one of the main reasons that they had a stand-up comedian playing Iago was because they wanted somebody to kind of fill in the time until the genie came on screen, because they didn't want the genie to be so much of a shock, 35 minutes in.
Well, he does improvise, he does add a lot of humour when he's on screen. So he is kind of like a little lesser Robin Williams.
I see what you're saying in the sense that it is just like that's the character that lets you know what the sense of humour of this film is going to be.
Yeah, I believe
so when the genie comes in, it's not. Yeah, it's not.
I believe the line where he says, "How about this picture? I don't know. I'm making a stupid face in it." I believe that was an improvised line, for example. Yeah. So he was doing the same sort of stuff as Robin Williams, just less overtly.
And apparently Robin Williams found that hilarious. Apparently he was listening in on that recording session, and apparently he loved it and just found Gilbert Gottfried really funny, which is just really...
That is the sort of... But that's the sort of thing that Robin Williams is pumping out every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
That's Gilbert Gottfried gold.
Yeah.
It's a pretty great cast, although they are all white people. And that, of course, would not be how they'd approach this film in this day and age.
No, certainly not.
And some of them doing the accent. Some of them are just doing like American accents or British accents.
Well, that was the interesting thing, and from what I can tell, it's no particularly different in this remake. But like Aladdin's a kind of California surfer dude voice. So not only is it American, but it doesn't quite match what I think it should be. It doesn't feel right. It's like too cool teenager kind of.
I know what you mean. That feels like a real relic of the 90s that they portray him in that way. That feels like we have our eyes on the animated TV series and we're going to, market this with Aladdin wearing sunglasses and riding on a skateboard. And But I don't know. I think he's got a charm to him, and they do the save the cat moment, and he gives his food to the little kids instead of eating himself. So it's okay to be rooting for him even though he's a thief.
This was what kind of my major problem with it in total, I think, was that real just basic predictability and really by the numbers. Oh, look how good this guy is. Look how bad this guy is. Kind of attitude. I think when I say it's dated, that's what I mean. I think Disney are much more sophisticated.
Yeah, Disney they've got a lot more postmodern, and audiences have as well. You have to be more like that now for it to play. I think it plays fine here. I agree, it's simplistic, but it's not a bad thing. It's not.
Well, that's why I'm saying outdated rather than bad. I think it's just sort of things have moved on.
But then, you know, the film before that was Beauty and the Beast, which really transcended all those things, and you know, they made the good guy a monster. You know, the good guy is essentially this chimera, weird hairy thing, and then the villain is your stereotypical Disney prince, really, and he's this handsome guy.
Yeah.
So then after that, for it to just kind of go back to what it was originally doing, where you know the good guys are like, you know, good looking teens, and then the bad guy is just this really grotesque kind of
that is
obvious
another
looking villain.
Yeah, that's something this film does get criticised for when people criticise Disney, is how much of an example of the if you're attractive, you're good, if you're ugly, you're evil trope this film is. Especially
when in the beginning monologue he says, you know, like so many things, it's not what's outside, it's what's inside that counts. And then for the film to just, you know, completely kind of turn that on its head.
Yeah. And, you know, I think it's probably pointed to a lot more here because Jafar looks a hell of a lot more ethnic than Aladdin, who practically is white, even though he's not white. But I don't know if that's all entirely, you know, Jasmine's drawn in a way that's also very ethnic and not white, I would say. So
and the Sultan is not ethnic at all. It's just
a bumbling little. Yeah. It's dated.
You know what, lads? It's very problematic, if you ask me. I think you can't be getting away. I once had a friend, and she was raped. You see, she was very badly raped, and I said, was he from Agrabah? She says yes, and I went round to Agrabah with a kosh, and I was spoiling for a fight. You know, I went Welsh there for a minute. I just like I'd like to apologise.
West Country.
I'd like to, where am I from again? I can't remember.
Wow. Oh God.
I'd like to apologise for what I just said. I've realised that I was wrong in the past.
This is like Robin Williams doing like a priest character.
Oh, Nanu.
Right. I forgot going into this. I mean, I didn't forget, but it still struck me just how gorgeously Disney animates stuff, or used to when they were doing hand-drawn animation. This film is absolutely beautiful, and in terms of the actual animation, by which I mean the movement of the characters, the individual drawings, and how you get from one pose to another pose, this is one of the best animated films I think ever made, frankly.
Yeah, certainly. And I think that's seen mostly in the genie. I really like the kind of this big swooping long lines, you know, that go from his hand right to the tip of his kind of ghost tail thing.
Well, I think you'll know more about this than I do, Howard, so I'll throw over to you in a minute. But my understanding is that Disney almost cast their animators like as if they were casting the voices for each character. So on the lead characters, I don't know if they still do, but I believe they used to basically say, right, you're animating Aladdin, you're animating Genie, you're animating Jafar. And so you get these kind of, well, this is the actor who's good at doing big, stocky, brutish characters. This is the animator who's good at doing the kind of wispy, weird ones.
Yeah.
And I believe the guy who did Genie based him on, it was a caricaturist's work.
Yes, it was a caricaturist called Al Hirschfeld who used to do caricatures for the New York Times, and his style is very distinctive. It is all those really kind of long, continuous lines kind of throughout.
Lots of curves and round, like arms spiraling round and things.
Yeah. Well, when you look at his caricatures and then look at the Genie, you can see exactly where that that's come in. But yeah, you're absolutely right. They cast the character, they kind of assign a character to an animator, and then they have like a kind of subdivision of animators beneath them. But like those people work specifically on a
that they've got someone in charge of it, a personality bring into it. You know.
Well, I think it brings a lot to 90s Disney. Do you know if they still do that now? It's CGI, or is that a thing of the past?
I think they still do, but obviously it's a completely different process. But I think they do still do that.
That's cool.
Because I think they just want a core group of people to just really fully understand that character inside and out and make sure that they get that absolutely right.
I think it really shows in Disney's work. So do you know it well enough that I could say, for example, the guy who was in charge of animating Jafar? Could you tell me some other characters in Disney films?
Yeah.
I'm going to guess Scar from The Lion King, maybe?
Scar from The Lion King, you're absolutely right.
Okay.
He also did Gaston in Beauty and the Beast.
Okay.
He also did King Triton in The Little Mermaid.
Okay. What about Aladdin? What else is that?
Aladdin was animated by Glenn Keane, who also did Ariel. He did The Beast. The Beast, by the way, I will say, I think is just one of the most beautifully designed and animated characters in all of Disney. And he also did Tarzan, and he did Pocahontas as well.
Okay. What about Jasmine?
That was a guy called Mark Henn. I think he also worked on Ariel. I think they kind of did Ariel together. He also did Belle. Yeah, and I think he didn't. I think he did Nala in The Lion King. So yeah, so there is a thing of, for the most part, you know, they almost had like a leading man guy, a leading girl guy, a supporting character guy, a villain guy, that kind of thing. Yeah. And you know, and that shows, I think.
I really like it, and I almost wish they would embrace it. You know, because it's Disney, they're known for animating. I almost wish they would embrace it to the point that they like credited the animators along with the actors. It like right up front in the credits, like Aladdin, voiced by so and so, animated by so and so on the same page.
Yeah,
I think that should be outdone. But you know,
I really think that Eric Goldberg, who animated the genie, I think I think his talent. He is such an unsung hero, that film. Robin Williams was obviously excellent, and he obviously deserves his praise. But to bring that to life with such talent and such flow and fluidity, I really think he doesn't get enough credit for what he did on that film.
I completely agree. I maybe the argument that Robin Williams is like the biggest asset in this film, but then I would say he's the second biggest one.
Yeah,
but I think that character as well is so scattershot that it must be difficult just to get hold on how to approach it. You know, it must have been a difficult job anyway, but to do it well.
Yeah. What I love about Aladdin really is one of those Disney films where it just, you look at it and you just think, I can't imagine this in any other medium, and we'll come to this later, I'm sure. You know, just the fact that, you know, you have the genie who, you know, he grows big and he opens his mouth and his tongue forms a staircase, and then a smaller genie in a top hat comes out of his mouth, and you just have all this stuff that is just impossible to do in live action. I hate to say,
this is an animator's film. This is like, by which I mean this is a film for people who geek out on animation, and I think it's
which
probably,
I certainly do. Yeah,
I think this is particularly popular amongst like animation nerds because it's just such a showcase of talent. Even by Disney standards, I think this is one of their biggest achievements in terms of animation. And there was a lot of technological breakthroughs as well with computer.
Well, I was going to ask, is that magic carpet, is that computer generated? Because it looks different to the...
They animated the actual general layout, so kind of the rectangle and the movements of the kind of rectangle and the tassels. That was hand-drawn animated. But then they did a digital print of the design of the carpet, which they then kind of projected onto the hand-drawn animated shape. So that was brand new.
And that's why in the sequels the carpet looks shit.
Yeah, basically, because they
couldn't afford to do the same thing.
And also the tiger head is, I believe, the first fully 3D animated kind of character with dialogue in a Disney film ever.
And I mean, we talk about stuff being dated in this film. I think that's one of the most egregious examples of it. But fair play, it was pushing the envelope at the time. And so I haven't really got much else to say other than I really love this film. I think it is Disney pretty much at its best, firing on all cylinders. Almost all of it works very well, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think just to go back to Robin Williams, just because I just quite like to. The genie really is one of my favourite characters in all of animation. Yeah. I think you're really warm to the genie. Oh, God, I think he does such a great job of not only does he hit all the comic points and all the jokes, but the emotional moments really sink in. Yeah. And I think in a lot of cases it's more emotionally it's almost more about the genie than it is about Aladdin. Completely, really, in a lot of ways. And I think also because I remember when I was a little kid, I still found the genie funny. I found the things that he did and the kind of things that he morphed into funny. And it wasn't until I was a teenager that I knew, oh, he's being Jack Nicholson or he's being Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was still funny to me as a kid, and I didn't have to know who it was because it still kind of made sense.
I have to say, my understanding is Robin Williams was pretty much just let loose to improvise and make stuff up in the recording booth.
And then these poor sods had to animate it too.
And that's it. And the animators just had to figure out how to sync that up with what he was doing. And my understanding is he wasn't saying, right, well, that was an impression of this, that was an impression of that. So I do find it remarkable that they were able to tell who all those characters were supposed to be, because as much life and energy as Robin Williams brings to his impressions, they're not...
ever impressive.
The one contained, but never duplicated. Genie of the Lamp. Right here, direct from the lamp. Right here for your very much wish fulfillment. Thank you.
Whoa. Wish fulfillment?
3 wishes to be exact. An ixnay on the wishing for more wishes. That's it. 3. 1, 2, 3. No substitutions, exchanges, or refund.
Well, I think it's a great film. Alan, are you going to say
I mean, I liked a lot of it, but I just felt the story was just so sort of simple, and the whole first half hour without the genie, and I was just like, oh, fucking get on with it. I give it a 7.
That's fair, yeah. I give it a 9 out of 10.
I'd give it a 9. I think, it has flaws, but ultimately it was one of my favourite childhood films and has kind of continued into adulthood, and it actually inspired me to want to be an animator at one point. And and it's sort of since influenced me to want to be an actor and voice actor and stuff, so it's just had a huge influence on my life, and I can't really argue with that. So
could you take on a genie type character? Have you got the improving comedy chops?
Nah, not really.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't.
Really. I would be terrified to jump into that.
I pretty much do it on this podcast every week. Oh, ding dong! Look at it.
Oh, no. Yeah, but it's like, if we wanted a character that just fucking quoted donkey all the time, it'd be fine.
Hello, lads, it's me, Japanese Bond. I'm actually here for a reason. Yes. I'm here actually to tell you, lads. Sorry about this, Howard. You won't have a fucking clue what's going on, but my name's Japanese Bond. I'm the James Bonds from the James Bond movie where Sean Connery goes Japanese. They put a bit of fake tan on me.
It's a racist film.
Oh, so I like to drink sake. I like to eat sushi. What else?
Sashimi.
Oh, I love a bit of tasty sashimi.
I drive a Suzuki.
I'm here to tell you about something else. Might be Japanese. I think it's American, actually, but it's on the internet, and the internet's quite Japanese in a lot of ways. So what do you think? It's called Patreon, lads. You lads, you've got another subscriber on your Patreon.
Oh, good.
He's called Beepo2797. So thank you, Beepo.
Beepo?
I don't think that's his real name, no.
2797.
He's telling you to Beepo, isn't he?
We're getting followed by bots.
And I'd also like to give a special thanks to Mr. Thomas Patton, Tom Patton, who of course was already a subscriber, but he's upped upped his donation for some reason. God, fuck knows why you'd want to give this show any more than the bare minimum, but thank you very much, Thomas, for upping the donation.
Japanese Bond, you're supposed to be our mascot.
Shite, lads. Japan, they're what do they do in Japan, lads?
They sell Patreon accounts.
Aladdin was Chinese, wasn't he? There's no Japanese links to this film or anything. Oh, I tell you what's Japanese, lads.
Right.
The animation wing of Disney that animated the second half of Return of Jafar. All right, I'll leave you to it, lads. See ya.
Is that right? Oh. Just dropping a little bit of knowledge on his way. Oh, wait, mate. While you're here, before you leave... we've mentioned Patreon. Can you at least give it a proper plug? And give
right, lads. So you listening out there in Looney Town, listening to this shite, you can tell I've not been on the show in a while. I'm getting pissed off with these lads. Right, so patreon.com/dim returns, right? You go there, there's some bonus episodes, mini-shows, early access to shite. We give you a shout out on the show like BPO2797 got. Yeah? So go there. It's only $1. $1 a month, lads. I mean, what can you buy for $1 in this day and age? I'm in a bad mood, lads. Can you tell?
Yeah, well, you all right? Is everything okay?
Yeah, I'm dreading getting on that bullet train back home. It's going to be absolutely crammed full.
What is going on?
It's good. He got all the Japanese references down.
Right. Well, I'm actually off now, lads. See you later.
All right.
Good.
All right. Good to see you.
All right.
We'll just.
So the Return of Jafar, though, as Japanese Bond just alluded to, was handed over to new people to animate, among other things.
Right. Yeah. Well, this is what I was going to ask. Right?
Inferior.
Because from my layman's view of watching animation, I can tell that Return of Jafar is not as good as Aladdin. Like, it feels more like a Saturday morning cartoon kind of TV show.
Ding, ding, ding.
But why is that? What is it that makes it that?
I believe this was pretty much as good as produced by people who made the Aladdin animated Saturday morning cartoon. It was originally.
Why does it look different? What is it? What makes that animation even to my eye go? Oh, that's a bit cheaper.
So there's the talent involved. You know, it's like hiring a lesser cast, or there's talent behind it. There's the amount of money that you can spend on, I think, time and resources as well, and the amount of time given as well. I think this sort of stuff is turned around a lot.
But what I'm asking is, when I watch that, I don't think, oh, I can tell this is cheaper and that's been done quicker because of this. What is it that I'm seeing subconsciously that makes me think, oh, this is cheaper? Is it the way they move? Is it the way the bodies move and it's just not as natural or something?
I have to say, for what this is, which is essentially television standard animation, it is actually very high quality. It only seems really shite because it's being compared to some of the best animation ever produced. But yeah, it's a step down, so the movements aren't nearly as expressive. One of the big things you're probably picking up on subconsciously is that the characters go off model quite a bit. So
what does that mean then?
Yeah,
say I am the avatar of the audience. Here,
so
layman.
You will have in any animated thing, or typically speaking, you will have the model, the kind of the Bible, if you will, for what that character looks like. They always have to. Their eyes always have to be this big in proportion to their nose, in proportion to, their head should stay this big in proportion to their arms and the rest of their body. In cheaper animation, as you probably know, if you've tried to draw stuff, you can fuck the proportions up. It doesn't quite look right. In cheaper animation, you will get inexperienced animators, less talented animators who will not be able to stick to model. But beyond that, there will be fewer opportunities to redo something when it doesn't come out looking right.
Yeah, because of time and money.
Yeah. So you often just have to roll with the punches. So one of the weirdest things about watching these sequels is that it's weird to see Disney characters go off model because it's such an unprofessional, like, cheap thing to see. But these are like high quality Disney characters that you're seeing do it. And they never go massively off model here, but it's subtle enough. You definitely do pick up on it.
Well, that's what I think. I'm not looking at it and going, "Oh, that's off model." I'm just notice that something's not quite as smooth. But okay, can I ask then? How does the animation process work? Because you have to have someone who designs a character originally, surely.
Yeah.
And then do you have a team of people that you create a model and they have to stick to that and draw it exactly the right every time?
Well, you have. I'm not really sure how it works with the television side of things, to be honest. But I know with Aladdin, the film, and with any other film, the lead animator is the person who designed the character.
Mm-hmm.
So,
but presumably with several people looking over their shoulder.
Oh, they'll do hundreds.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, hundreds, literally, if not thousands, of different designs and versions of the character, and there'll be producers ticking them off and saying, I like this, I don't like that, give him more of a Vincent Price feel. Yeah.
Okay, so on something like an Aladdin, like a big budget thing, like what's the team work? So is there literally a team who's drawing Genie, and then someone's doing the backgrounds, and then someone's doing Aladdin stood next to him?
Yeah, the background artist on a film like Aladdin will be completely its own thing.
Yeah. And you also have effects animators for things like water and fireworks and stuff like that. That's not a character.
Yeah, in fact, even on a relatively low budget TV level, like backgrounds people are typically their own thing. They just do like paintings of backgrounds essentially, whereas it's quite a different skill set, I think.
I'm going to say, that's what I was going to ask. Is that a different skill set, or is that like how you start and then doing characters more involved so you can move on to that when you're more experienced?
I'm sure you can move around quite a lot. I'm sure people do, but I mean, it is definitely a different skill set. I mean, it certainly till recently, they used to be literally different mediums you'd be working with. You know, one was pencil and paper, one was paint, basically. So,
Yeah.
Well, okay, so what happens then? Because if it's drawn with pencil, on paper, your basic outline, then what is it? So colouring is a different process.
So you'd have your original rough animation. So you would have somebody kind of animating, a particular scene or a particular shot, and that would kind of be fairly rough just to get the kind of idea of it, and then that would be sent to the cleanup department, who would do. They would kind of trace over each of those frames and do a neat version of it.
Yeah, like a thick pen outlined version of it.
Yeah. And they, I have to say, are kind of the real unsung heroes of Disney, because they actually properly draw what you actually see on screen, and they never get enough credit. But anyway, and
just then, traces.
Yeah.
Hey man, let me ask you something. Somebody draws something and then draw the exact same thing, like right on top of it, without going outside the original designated art. What do you call it?
I don't know, man. Tracing?
See?
Yeah, but still, I mean, but some animators are better than others, and some do very rough, very sketchy drawings, and sometimes a cleanup artist really has to work hard to figure out actually what they want. But anyway, and then that clean image will be kind of scanned into a computer and coloured in and what have you, and then that will be put on the background.
And in the old days, certainly when this was being produced, colouring it in meant literally painting the cells.
Yeah.
But nowadays it's all digital.
I think it's generally just I think the process is different. I think they probably have animators working on sequences and shots rather than characters.
Yeah,
so that's TV, probably why they're a little bit more off model. And I think it's fewer frames per second, if I'm not mistaken. I think it's probably.
Do you know how many frames per second Aladdin the film was?
It's 24.
Okay. But is that
for most Disney animated?
But is that true 24 frames per second, as in actually 24 drawings per second? Because I know American TV animation standard is 24 frames per second, but they photograph each of those frames twice, so it's actually 12 frames a second. But then if it's a particularly intricate motion they need to get, they'll put the effort in and do some extra drawings just to kind of essentially up the frame rate for that shot.
No, it's genuinely 24 frames per second in proper original Disney movie animation.
I mean, I can't speak for Disney TV, but I imagine they are like standard American TV animation. So
you can
right,
probably halve that. Yeah.
So there you go, Alan. Lower frame rate.
Yeah.
And so I know definitely The Simpsons, there's like animation farms where you just send them out to be done, right?
Ship them off to Korea,
Is that just to do the kind of the legwork?
The shit jobs, basically. So certainly on The Simpsons, Futurama, stuff like that, I think most of the animation is typically done in America, in-house, in terms of this character, I'm going to draw them here, then I'm going to draw them over there where they end up. I maybe draw a few poses in between, then we'll send that off to Korea and they'll draw like 100 in between pictures to fill in the gaps and do all the hard work for us. I think Disney's different because they have their own animation houses. The Return of Jafar made use of a brand new Australian animation house that I think had just opened up and sort of essentially made a bit of a pitch for this as a project, and they did the first half, and then the second half was handled by their Japanese animation house, which I think was a lot more established for TV and this sort of stuff.
So that'll be another factor then as well, just simply less experienced animators actually working on it as well.
We should note this went straight to video. And that's not because they made it and it was shit. It was produced for the straight-to-video market, which was the first time Disney ever did this. More than that, it was the first American animated film that ever went straight to video.
Right,
so quite a groundbreaking thing, really. Because, I mean, Disney, God, they milked this model dry for the next 15 years or so. Until they merged with Pixar, and John Lasseter, was it, basically said, well, stop that. And apparently there was originally some resistance that doing this would water down, diminish, tarnish the Disney brand. But somewhere along the way, they obviously stopped caring, because that's exactly what they fucking did.
I think it has a lot more to do with kind of like keeping the brand alive and kind of reprinting what already exists, kind of. Because if you think about it, you know, a straight to video sequel is kind of a way of sort of reminding people of an original film, an original thing. And they're now doing it with the live action remakes. It's just a way of the company to kind of, you know, reignite something from a previous property.
And I'm sure they'll be like VR experiences based on Aladdin and shit in the future or something. Who knows? They'll keep finding ways to do it. So this is a bit of an odd one, though. Disney made a real industry out of its straight-to-video sequels, but this was, I think, produced really... It was conceived of as the first 2 episodes of the Aladdin TV series. The idea was to go in with an hour-long TV special to kind of launch the show, which I think Disney had done in the past. And somewhere along the line, some of the people involved were like, let's put it out straight to video, make it a proper movie.
I suppose thinking about it, this is, what was it, 94?
94, yeah.
If you think videos really sort of came in became a big thing in the mid-80s, you know, like, I guess
But it was only really the early 90s when they started to be something everyone could buy.
Had,
you didn't
so
just
it makes
rent.
sense if it was a new model, a new business model. Yeah, they're taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
And I mean, I used to love the Aladdin TV series. I don't know if you watched it at all, Howard, but I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a great Saturday morning cartoon. I imagine if I went back to it, I'd still think, you know, it's kid stuff, but it's a decent attempt at it. And I think watching this, I think you can see that quality on show. It's just that, for the love of God, keep it at 20 minutes, because you guys are not good enough to sustain a feature-length plot. And I mean barely a feature-length. An hour and 9 minutes, I think, is the runtime. Because this is just it's a bit of a slog, this film. It's hard worked. Nothing really happens. I think that the stakes are just too low throughout for it to be interesting. If it was a 20-minute episode, you'd think, fair enough. But
But it's one of those where it's like it does kind of make, like, the story does kind of make sense as a sequel to Aladdin. So it kind of, that kind of justifies it. And, I can understand why they've made it a feature-length thing rather than just a random episode. Because if Jafar came back in an episode, it would be a bit underwhelming. So,
So this really is a bridge to the series. It's setting up how Iago's now a good guy because they wanted to keep him in the show. It's setting up Genie coming back, even though he went off and was free. All these little...
And also his powers being slightly lesser than they were and all that stuff.
It all makes sense. It's just very... it spends about half, if not 2/3 of its runtime kind of going through all this stuff before it actually gets into the plot. What little plot there is. So Robin Williams was understandably pissed off and said, like, fuck you, I'm not coming back to another one. So they hired Dan Castellaneta, who is best known as Homer Simpson and many, many, many other characters on The Simpsons. And he's one of the big heavyweight voice actors in that, he can do lots and lots of voices. So it makes sense from that point of view. I would make an argument that he's too good at doing voices to be the genie, because it's jarring how suddenly the genie can do all these different voices instead of just like Robin Williams sounding like him. The genie used to just sound like he liked doing a silly impression here and there, whereas now it's like, look, he's transforming into all these different characters properly, and so I don't know, but you can see the logic there, and of course he's got a kind of halfway decent Robin Williams impression down. It's quite easy to do that basic kind of who the who. It's
I parachuted down into the Taj Mahal.
I rollerbladed all along the Great Wall.
I even made the famous Leaning Tower of Paul. But who was with me through it all? Nobody! The Moscow Circus hired me to fly trapeze. On Mount Olympus one, a race with Hercules. It's easy when you're chased by killer bees. Gesundheit when I sneeze.
I like, actually, in that song he does a whole list of ethnic voices. Can we throw over to Liam Neeson? he goes through, he does Chinese, French, Russian. He does like really thick accents for them, and then he gets to Greek when he's like, I went to Greece, and you can tell he just thought like, oh, what do Greek people sound like? So he does a British accent.
I don't approve of silly accents, especially when they're deliberately over exaggerated. So it's demeaning.
What's the meaning? Okay. What's the meaning?
Oh, that's very racist what you said there.
Okay.
So, there is a big Robin Williams-shaped hole in this film that Dan Castellaneta can fill about 60% of.
Yeah, and I think we've already spoken about how it just doesn't quite capture the energy, despite his best.
But you can't. Like that's what Robin Williams brings. Like Robin Williams is so individual. It's not like, oh, someone's a bit like Robin Williams. It's like Jim Carrey. It's kind of irreplaceable. It's uncopyable, if that's a word.
Yeah.
Because it is just that natural ball of energy.
Yeah.
It will always either feel like, an impression of him, or it would just be a completely different performance. They're your only options, really.
Yeah,
with that kind of thing.
Added to the cast here, we've got Jason Alexander, who is really going for it. Actually, I think in the role of the awful new character Abysmal.
It's a good pun.
Yeah,
Bond villain.
He brings a lot more energy to the role than I think the film deserves, frankly. But I think he was a staple on the TV series from what I remember, so I think he was probably just
I think the character was a regular character, I think, really.
And what happens, Jafar comes back, but he's a genie now, and he tries to get revenge. Abysmal finds him. Jafar can kill him, which begs the question of like how genies are under any sort of slavery, because Jafar just seems to be able to do whatever the fuck he wants.
I feel like the normal genie can also do whatever he wants, but I feel like he has a bit more of a moral code and he wouldn't do that. He's just a kind of person.
And I have to get in the second and third films, you do question a few times, why doesn't Genie just do some magic?
Yeah.
There is a prolonged sequence in this film where Iago seems to not understand 3 dimensions existing, forgets that you could fly upwards to avoid a tiger instead of just sideways. that annoy anyone? Just me.
Fair enough, yeah, fair point.
yeah.
And that's pretty much it for my notes on this film. I think this really is just a load of nothing, this film. It's just classic inferior, disposable sequel. It feels like a TV pilot.
They seem to struggle with Aladdin because they have to have him as this like street rat thief. But like, so he goes and robs from the rich or the bad guys and gives to the poor, and then goes and lives in the palace with his girlfriend, who is like living on high, and the 1%ers. They never quite address it. They just sort of Oh, the other thing I noticed they never sort of bring up is that, you know, the Sultan is the Sultan, and they keep referring to how Princess Jasmine will one day become the Queen. They never use the word Sultana. They seem to be avoiding that just because it sounds stupid, I guess.
I mean, you know, telling someone that she will one day be a sultana,
it just won't play to an American child. I'm going to get that. Yeah. So,
what about the songs? The songs, eh?
I can't really remember any of them. I mean, it's clearly not a patch on anything Alan Menken's ever done.
They feel like an obligation. It's like this film goes, well, the first one was a musical, so this has to be a musical. I guess we better just get through it.
Yeah.
They're not bad, but they're very of Saturday morning American television standard, by which it's something I can't quite put my finger on, but it's like they'll write these lyrics that have little jokes in them, but then it's at the expense of the rhythm and the patter, and the actors are like struggling to get the words out in time with the music, and the performance doesn't quite sound like they've done enough takes to get it right, and it always just sounds a bit clunky and lifeless and shit.
It's just a bit more throwaway.
Yeah, that's it. Anything. It's like, I think it's like how a lot of people who don't like musicals just think of and watch musicals. It's not like this is a song I want to go home and listen to later on. It's not like a show-stopping moment in the film. It's just, we're filling 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, I really don't particularly like this film. I think it's kind of shit. And it's a shame because I think Aladdin is one of the few Disney films out there that actually really would lend itself to a sequel if they wanted to do it properly. I give it a 4 out of 10.
I gave it a 5, which was just the kind of like, I don't even remember what I watched for the last hour. I'll better give it a 5.
Yeah,
it's so kind of quickly forgettable.
Yeah, I'd probably say a 5. It's not harmful. It's not offensively bad. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, you just kind of sit through it. It's like background noise. Yeah. But then the TV series ran for, I think, a standard Disney order. What's that? 65 episodes, something like that. Disney have these weird rules with how many episodes of stuff they make, and then So I think it ran for 2 years, basically, 94 to 95, I'm going to guess. And then the series finale, the kind of big wrap-up of the series, was the third final Aladdin movie, Aladdin and the King of Thieves. And it really feels like they went out of their way to make something as good as they possibly could this time, which is not the sense you get from Return of Jafar. And a huge part of that is probably because they patched things up with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
I believe basically the CEO of Disney had to quit and be replaced by someone else, who then publicly apologized to Robin Williams for it to happen, and they still had to pay him $1 million this time instead of scale. I don't know quite how much that was for 1996 money doing a voiceover gig. I imagine it was pretty reasonable. I doubt he did 16 hours of material for them this time round either. I imagine it was more like half an hour in the movie. But,
Well, the major thing I noticed in terms of the genie was his sort of cultural references and little in-gags were so much more.
It felt like
egregious.
They were written into the script.
Yeah.
There's
like
a lot,
Mrs. Doubtfire, and then loads of Disney references, which just felt like
there's a lot more
scripted.
Disney in there. There was it didn't feel as kind of as much a part of what he was saying or what he was doing. It felt a little bit more tacked on, I think, in this version.
I agree, yeah, just like, a lot less natural.
I mean, for example, he has this scene with Jasmine where he's trying to cheer her up, and then randomly at the end of it, he just turns into Bing Crosby and Bob Hope and has a conversation with himself.
And
it's literally what does this have to do with the story? This has nothing to do with anything.
The kids love Bing Crosby and Bob Hope.
Well, exactly.
They were very good cultural reference. 1994.
You know what else is a massive improvement in this one? The musical numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
they're still
actually
not amazing, mediocre, but they are a lot better. They feel like someone's really tried to write the best songs they could.
Was this one a different singing voice for Aladdin? Because he sounded different.
It was so in every film it's been the same voice actor and the same singer, which is a different person, obviously. But for some reason it just sounds more different in this one.
Yeah, it just jumped
than
out.
It does in any of the others.
When he goes from
just
speaking to singing, it was much more obvious.
I don't know if it's just because he's talking and then singing like close to the speaking bits, so you can hear the distinction more closely than you do with A Whole New World and stuff. But that was the same with me. It really stood out. Maybe they didn't have as much time to kind of
do the sound
work on and do different takes to kind of
Who else? So we've got a returning cast, and we have got the addition of John Rhys Davies as Aladdin's daddy.
Which, I mean, I'm okay with John Rhys Davies. The voice doesn't quite fit here, doesn't? It's like it's too bassy or something. I don't know.
I quite like him in this. I was thinking, they should have got Patrick Stewart. They should have said, mate, come be in the third Aladdin. You wanted to be in it. I guess he was still doing Star Trek: The Next Generation.
They weren't offering the same money by that point.
No.
You got John Rhys Davies as your poor man's Patrick Stewart.
So this, I mean, basically, I think this is a much better film than Return of Jafar. This feels like Return of Jafar feels like it was produced halfway as episodes of a TV show and then got mashed into like square peg mashed into a round hole. And it doesn't really work. This feels like it was built from the ground up as a straight-to-video film. So there's a coherent plot with structure. It's got an emotional arc of Aladdin, like meeting his dad and all that comes with that.
I think this film was better than the second one, but I found the plot so weak and thin and just...
It needed more.
But just like, you see, a mysterious man with his face covered. Next scene... Aladdin, I wonder who my dad was. Oh, right, okay, I wonder where that's going then. And then the whole thing with them, I never got their relationship. I missed the point where the dad had a redemption. He just suddenly went, do you know what? I'm not bothered about gold anymore. I like you as a son. There was no kind of point where that happened.
Yeah.
And then at the end, didn't he just kind of go back to it anyway?
Yeah.
I'm sure I've not watched it in a long time, but I'm sure he just kind of teamed up with the Argo and then was just like, yeah, I'm just going to keep being a thief.
Yeah. Surprising amount of nuance for a Disney production, eh?
All the thieves are like, we're really evil. We could be more evil if it wasn't for that bloody good guy leading us. Oh, yeah, he's a thief, but he's a good fella. We want to go out raping and pillaging, but he won't let us.
Yeah, I mean, there's a guy who stabs an elephant in this film.
Oh, I should have electrocuted him and put a big belt round its neck. To kill it. Topsy.
I would give this one a 6 out of 10, which I think is, this was a lot more pleasant to just kind of have on and sit through and yeah.
Well, I gave this a 5, but it's a stronger 5 than the last one.
Yeah, fair enough.
For whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
I think I'd give it a 6 as well. I think I feel the same as you, Sol. I think, you know, they're clearly doing the best that they can, and they are clearly trying to make it as good as they can. But you know, it's never going to be as good as Aladdin. It just you know.
I think Robin Williams is worth a point alone. So
yeah.
All right. Well, those are the Aladdin films. But why are we talking about him? Because they are doing another one, aren't they? They're bloody doing a new version, a live action version, and they've enlisted to avoid Liam Neeson, to avoid any complaints of Hollywood whitewashing or cultural appropriation or anything like that. They've enlisted the help of the well-known Middle Eastern Muslim director Guy Ritchie. Oh wait, no, he's one of the whitest men in the world.
Wait a minute, ding dong. Oh, it's Muslim Guy Ritchie. I'm not doing it.
Fucking hell. All right. Let me just lay down some eggshells. Please come in, Muslim Guy Ritchie.
No way, no.
Not going to go there. No.
I think that's safe.
You know, we have the well-known Asian actors here, Will Smith and Alan Tudyk.
Well, look, I think they really struggled with this film's casting. I think they, as good as said it,
But your principal actors, Aladdin and Jasmine, are going to be young anyway, so you're going to bring out someone young, so that's fine.
Yeah.
You've got your Genie, that's your bankable name, that's who they brought in. Yeah, you got Alan Tudyk in, he's nothing
Disney's
but
little,
bird voices now.
Little mascot now for some reason. Yeah.
Who's Billy Magnuson as Prince Anders? What's that? Because Billy Magnuson is not a traditional.
I assume Prince Anders is the lookaboo. You never see a prince with two horses. Look, he's a horse's ass. Whatever his line is.
That's it. I believe that's exactly the line.
A horse with two rear ends.
Look at that, Abu. It's not every day you see a horse with two rear ends.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, well, he was called Prince Ahmed in the original one. I'm assuming, I don't know, I'm assuming he's going to be like a suitor to Princess Jasmine or something.
It must be a slightly more significant character because he's the fourth credited. He's credited before Aladdin on the IMDb page.
Yeah, I
don't know what order that is on.
But they'll play up the arranged marriage. They're really pushing her to be with this guy throughout the film. It'll be him instead of Jafar making a move because that'll be too creepy with like the age difference. That's my guess. Actually, how old's the guy playing Jafar? He's not actually that
Marwan
old.
Kenzari. He was born in 1983. So, yeah, about 35.
Quite a young Jafar, really, isn't it? How old's the person playing Jasmine? Is she an actual kid? Because that'll be why.
Naomi Scott.
1993.
Traditional Middle Eastern name. Yeah.
Well, only 10 years in it. That's fine by Hollywood standards.
She's probably playing younger, though, isn't she?
Probably, yeah.
18 or something.
Well, so... I mean, we're pretty much yet to see any of these actors in motion. I don't know about you, but I'm not familiar with most of them.
No.
But, you know, fair play. I'll look forward to seeing it. Basically, I watched the trailer for this film. And do you ever have like an involuntary facial movement and then you kind of catch yourself doing it? You know when something happens and you do such a big grin or you like gasp. And you sort of catch yourself afterwards like, oh God, like that was completely involuntary. Well, I don't think I've ever had it before, but I had like a completely involuntary scrunching up of my face in like absolute repulsion when I watched this trailer. It was at work and someone commented like, what, you're right. And it was like...
What's wrong with your face?
I mean, I was never sure about Will Smith as the genie, but... I didn't think they were actually going to have him doing the wiki, aha, it's a friend like me, aha.
Oh, great one who summons me, I stand by my oath, loyalty to wishes 3. I'm kidding, watch this.
Watch out! You done wound me up, you ain't never had a friend like me.
Fuck off, Will Smith. Don't. Just stop it. Bad Will Smith.
I just wish they'd kind of, and they'd never do this, but I wish that they'd gone really really different with the genie. I wish they'd done something completely different so that you couldn't even consider Robin Williams in this version of it. Do you know what I mean?
I feel like they've gone out of their way to avoid... I always said the obvious pick to me who would capture that level of playfulness, that ability to improvise.
Shrek!
that warmth that comes with it. I always said Jim Carrey would have been the perfect guy to do it, but that was in the mould of what Robin Williams did. If you want to go the other direction and something completely different, I think that's what they've done. I think that's what Will Smith is. But I just do not like what they've... It's like fucking Jared Leto as a Joker. It's like, right, you're trying to do something different and you're trying so hard. This is just... Like, I'm all for a different kind of genie, but I just don't think Will Smith's the right guy. I don't know. Like, I feel like they could have maybe done like a female genie, which would be completely different, or have the genie actually be evil and he's kind of part of the problem, or someone like that.
Yeah, just do something so different. But they just never would, because it's all about, marketing and kind of reminding you of what you liked the first time, unfortunately.
And he is the one opportunity to put an A-list actor in the role, and they need at least one, so...
Have either of you seen the Aladdin stage show, the West End musical?
I have not.
I have, yes.
Oh. Have you seen any at all, Alan?
No. Friend of the show, Judy Bignell, went to see it just a couple of weeks ago, and she said it was shit. So that's all I know about the Aladdin show.
Howard, I believe you've seen quite a few of these Disney stage shows. It was almost like the blueprint for the current live-action film remaking they're doing, wasn't it? That was them reprinting the money again, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, basically. I've never really seen Beauty and the Beast. But I've seen Lion King, and I've saw The Little Mermaid on Broadway, and I saw Aladdin when it first came here about 3 years ago, probably. Aladdin's a bit of a funny one, because obviously in the UK we have panto, and we have the kind of pantomime thing. So so Aladdin often over here is done as a panto. But Americans don't really have panto, so I think they wanted to add that kind of element to it, to kind of because Americans don't really know it. So for Americans, it was a bit like, oh right, cool. It's just that's the kind of entertainment thing. But then it came over here and was virtually the same as it was on Broadway. So over here we're a bit like, oh well, it's just kind of panto-y, really. And there's one moment in particular that really stuck out, where Aladdin and Jasmine meet for the first time, and then he kind of takes her back to his random house thing, and they have a conversation, but he doesn't know that she's a princess, and she just, knows that he's a normal guy, and that's when they meet for the first time. And it's a really important scene, because it's before he pretends to be a prince. They're just people talking, having a conversation. They get to know each other just normally as people. They see them for who they really are. In the stage show, in that scene, he did this really weird thing where he was being really fake and really posturing and like calling her babe and all this stuff. And, obviously you have, hand-drawn animation can do so much. It's virtually limitless. Yeah. Film can do almost anything, but with stage you are so limited. There is so little you can do, really. And the genie is just very different. He's more of a kind of Cab Calloway kind of personality, like a kind of jazz kind of cool guy than anything else. And it was fun, and it was good, and it worked for what it was, and I really liked the guy doing it.
I think, honestly, at this point, I think Aladdin is just a write-off. This new one, it's going to be shit.
Yeah.
It's going to be shit.
I'm very curious as to how it will turn out. I don't think it's going to be shit. It might not be great, but I think it'll be a passable bit of, that's all right. I think it's going to be a lot better than Dumbo, put it that way.
Oh, I can believe it'll be better than Dumbo, but...
It couldn't be worse.
But I also think it's going to be much closer to the original film than Dumbo really just went off and did its own thing with it, and it wasn't great, but at least it was easier to compartmentalize, where I think this is going to be much closer to the Aladdin story we know.
Yeah.
If we're able to dig into the whole Disney canon and do kind of dream remake, if I was a producer at Disney And I wasn't thinking what's going to make the most money. I was thinking what...
You'd be immediately sacked.
Yeah. What can I get commissioned off the back of being a live-action Disney remake, but is the potential to turn out the best, film? I might go for Atlantis.
Yeah.
Because that was shit, but
no one cares
the concept was cool. There was some great visual stuff that they were playing with.
Yeah,
a lot to work with in that, I think.
Yeah, I think it's underrated. Yeah, I think there are elements to it that are good,
but it doesn't have the recognition and the they would never do it just because most people probably don't know it's even a Disney film.
But you're right. But yeah, you're right. That's certainly one that would warrant a remake, I think.
I'd do the Aristocats.
Oh, that's one I bet.
Get a load of cats.
Yeah, I bet you that happens as a Disney Plus streaming movie. I bet you
they'll do them as CGI cats, though. I want real cats.
What about? I mean, Frozen must be coming at some point. I think they're gonna piss off everyone by just being like, "Yeah, we'll remake a film from less than 10 years ago."
I don't know. We'll give it more time.
Maybe. I think they're nearing the point where they've done everything they can do. They've announced Lilo and Stitch is happening.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, again, it's for that Disney Plus thing, I think.
Okay.
So it's gonna be like a TV movie essentially, but actually, I'm looking now. There's quite a lot there. They haven't done Pinocchio yet.
Well, there are two that I would actually quite like to see. Pocahontas and The Black Cauldron, but that's because both of those, I feel, the stories kind of mostly have humans in and don't really lend themselves that much to actual animation, so it would make sense to do them in live action. And also, the films are kind of flawed, and there are improvements to make.
They were both shit the first time, so let them try again, try and get it right.
How do you tell the story of Pocahontas now? Now that everybody knows how
I think we should turn to Liam Neeson for this one.
There's no getting away from that one, lads. I mean, it's one thing to put a nice little ethnic girl in the main part, but it's still a total fabrication of history.
That's a good point, Liam Neeson. I hear what you're saying.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Just Black Cauldron then.
Black Cauldron. What's wrong with the coloured cauldron? Oh no! Wait, you can't say colours no more. Sorry, I forgot. African American cauldron. That's what it
is. Disney's the African American cauldron.
Zippity doo dah.
I mean, no.
What?
That never happened. That film never happened.
We're doing a Disney hit.
Apparently not.
Okay, well, that's Aladdin. Anything else to say, or Liam? Any final thoughts on race relations?
Please, everybody, don't be racist. Thank you for listening, and thanks again to Howard for helping us out this week. If you would like to hear more of our take on Disney, then go back into our archives, where we recently looked at Dumbo, and we also did an episode focusing specifically on the live-action remakes. These can all be found at our website, dimreturns.com, and of course wherever you normally find your podcast feeds. Thank you again, and we hope you'll be back next week. Support the show at patreon.com/dimreturns. I have a very particular set of skills. They're not racist skills.